I just want to do something that I'm going to commit to.
I'm
Right.
so compelled to share, to pull other people out of their situation.
And I'm giving hope to women just like me who, probably felt unseen or probably.
It's just about finding what you love and what you're passionate about.
Do what you love. Do what you love.
And I really realized that this is what happens once you let go. You just create all that space,
It's about helping each other. It's about growing with each other. It's about being true to self.
To whom much is given, much is required.
You only ever have one obstacle, and that's yourself.
Commit to change. Change your life. Change your future.
Hey, and welcome to Commit to Change, the podcast, otherwise known as C2C, that gives a voice to the people who may be considered a small fry in their industry, but are doing big things in their communities. This is Miss Nikki, the Jane of all trades, but the master of living. I am committed to introducing local VIPs, vivaciously inspiring people to encourage you on your daily journey and let you know what's possibly happening around your area. So today's guest is coming from across the waters wait, you moved. So now, wait a minute, well, you're still across the waters, but you moved, you were in Italy, but you are now in Australia?
Sweden.
That's close by. Well, introducing Miss Shannon Rose. Say hi.
Hey everybody, I'm excited to be here from Sweden.
Oh my goodness. Only Miss Nikki. Okay. Well, let me introduce a little bit more. Let me tell you a little bit more about Miss Rose. I was just telling her how much I love her name. It's just so beautiful. It's just there's something like you want to name like a perfume or something like after. It's just beautiful. Okay, let me go on. She is a coach, a leader, and a mom, and a wife who is paving the way for other women to be confident in the pursuit of their greatest desires and living life out loud. She has created initiatives within the community that encourages women to show up and share their message. It is her mission to empower more women to show up confidently in their work and in what they want. Shannon's life work, her purpose, and her commitment is to see others live their lives out loud in everything. She is a living example of what this looks like and feels like by ensuring that she is living out loud daily. Shannon wants to be that light to guide other women to do the same. Again, please welcome to the house, Miss Shannon Rose. Yay!
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. How fun.
Yes, I absolutely am excited to have you with us as well. I love watching your posts. You're just beautiful, period. You just radiate this wonderful energy and this light, just even in your pictures and your posts. So I was like, I need to have her on the show. And I'm so glad that you said yes.
I'm so glad I said yes too.
So please you're welcome. Please tell our audience, let them know a little bit more about you. Who is Shannon Rose?
Firstly, I'm going to start saying my name like that from now on. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. You guys can probably tell by my accent, but I am an Aussie. So I am from Australia. My husband is Austrian. And we have two little ones. My daughter was born in Australia. My son was born in Austria. And we have been, quote unquote, traveling around Europe for the last four and a half years. Previously to that, we were of course in Australia. My background is strength and conditioning and nutrition. And my hubby and I owned a gym back in Australia. And I was 5 months pregnant when we decided to sell that, and we packed up everything, sold everything that we weren't taking. I think we had about 3 suitcases in the end and a pram, and we hopped a one-way flight to Europe, and we haven't looked back since. So, I was always someone, and I'll be really like, I mean, you've been watching my stuff. I'm pretty transparent. I tell it like it is. Up until I came to Europe and up until I had my son, I was someone who never really saw the community in my vision. And I think that a lot of that came through the rejection I experienced during my childhood. I was bullied a lot at school. And I had a really traumatic childhood, particularly because of the years that I had at school. I was very overweight, and it was a really troublesome time. As I grew up, I struggled with a lot of, I would say, a lot of body dysmorphia, eating disorders, like however I could reject my body further, I tried it. And I then turned to becoming very obsessive with exercise, which turned into becoming a trainer, owning a gym, that kind of thing. And then after my son was born, I put on about 73 pounds. And I was forced to find myself again because I was no longer a body. And it was the most beautiful thing and that could have ever happened to me, because I finally let go of me being that centerpiece in the world. It was no longer about me. It was, how can I show up in the world to be something better for other people? Wow. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It put me on a journey to finding coaching, to finding self-love, to being of service, to helping others live their best life. And if that wouldn't have happened, I really feel that I wouldn't be able to be the mom I am today, but also prioritize myself and my dreams, because my dreams aren't about me. They're now about seeing these other women feel good in their skin, find the confidence to show up in the pursuit of what really lights their soul on fire. And it's been such a beautiful journey. So that's a little bit more about me.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself to us and let us know. And I would have never have thought that. Like just watching you in general, I would have never have known. I wouldn't even think about like that you would have been someone that was bullied, someone that went through the traumatic. I understand that because I had a similar experience. It wasn't for being overweight, but for some reason it was there was a lot of hate towards me, and I don't know if it was because I was happy. I have no idea. They didn't like that I smiled all the time. But I was pretty involved with a lot of things. Like I always joined activities. And so it was just, people just hate it. And, but I remember like even in my senior year, they had, and this is something actually, I mean, I get like it follows you, even though you're like other people have gotten over it. It seems like people who have bullied you, they don't think about it. Cause I've had people in the past from school come back and they'll speak to you. And it was like, they talk to you as if they weren't one of the people who did that. Like, hey, how are you? And you're looking at them like, I remember what you did to me. Like, how could you talk to me like we're best buds? So I just thought that was very interesting, just in the development of life in general, of how like kids really are cruel and they don't even realize that they're doing that, but it affects those that they're attacking long term. And I remember, did you chime in at any time? Because I thought you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, if I can, and I think that, you know, because of the work that we do in the world, we create this awareness and we recognize that. And sometimes, depending on their part, they don't recognize that, right? They don't have the awareness that what am I trying to say? But the ability to look back and to think about how what they have done has affected others.
Right. And so that's why sometimes like like this is something that I talked to my girlfriend about that I wanted to like put out there. And I know there will be like so much backlash with this is with, instead of with the, when they have the bullies, instead of it just being, let's be harder and let's get, you know, put them away. I always felt like there's a reason behind what they're doing. And I just look at it like, provide them support, not push them away, because I think it makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Provide them support, because I feel like providing them support as well as, you know, who's considered the victim, I think it helps the process long term. And I think it's more of a rounded thing instead of it being imbalanced, because now it's like you're oppressing the oppressor. And I think it just creates an ugly situation. But for the person who has had to deal with that, it is a lot of work, and some people don't get over it. And I know that was a part of my depression, you know, is having to feel like I'm never enough because I got it from different sides, and you know, thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't they like me? And I'm just happy, you know. That's just who I am, and it was always an issue. So anyway, I understand like just the journey, and like I said, looking at you when I think that, and this is same, like people will look, when I tell people now I'm very verbal about my depression, people are like, what? I would have never expected that from you. But it's like, my journey is not necessarily to burden you. It's something for me to go through and to learn the steps so I could teach you. And so, you know, we're very similar in a lot of ways. So when I saw you again, like I said, just your energy, just the way that you show up in the field, and because we're very similar in a lot of things, I'm like, yes, I'm loving it. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much again, like for just sharing that part of you with our audience and letting us know a little bit more about you. And so I'm just going to assume, like when you decided and you realized that you wanted to share something to the world, like, is that the point that that was your commitment? Like you wanted to give your commitment in life, or was there something pivotal that appeared to you where you were like, I'm going to shift gears in what I'm doing, and this is now how I'm showing up?
Yeah, I'll share it with you. Before I do, yes, I've seen you crushing it in the gym. We're going to have like a meetup one time, you and I. I've seen you.
I'm trying.
Good. I love it. I love seeing women stretch their strength, right? Like really show it. I think it's so beautiful. Like strong women is something that I find a lot of beauty in. And so I love that. I just want to add that in. So yeah, Mike, the moment that this happened, it actually was my husband. We have the same birthday. I don't know how we found each other. We fell pregnant 7 months after finding one another. It was this like crazy thing that happened. And we never have arguments. We have deep conversations. It's always been a really fantastic relationship. One night, we were in a pretty difficult situation. Harry was maybe 2 months old at this stage. We're in a bit of a difficult situation financially at this particular point in time. This is about 3 years ago now, and there was a lot going on. And my moods, the way I was treating everybody in my family, again, I was focused inside, not out. I was focused on how things were affecting me. You know, I was behaving like a selfish bitch, if I'm really honest. And I couldn't see it. And one night he actually lost it. He was like, you shape up or ship out is basically what he said. He said to me that you have to change. You have to see yourself. You have to see how your behaviors are tearing our family apart. And I couldn't see it. I was waking up every morning. I did have postnatal depression at this time. And it was torture for everybody around me, but I couldn't see it, and I wasn't prepared to see it until that very moment. I slept upstairs in the bedroom. He slept downstairs on the couch that night. And for 3 days, we didn't talk to one another. And we have never not spoken to one another. Like, you know, even if we have a disagreement about something, it's never raised voices. It's never any of that. And we will always go to bed giving each other a kiss. Even if he's pissed me off, I'm like, I still love you. I'll see you in the morning. You know what I mean? This was different. And that was the moment that changed everything. That was the moment where I started to prioritize my body again. I started to go for walks again. I started a morning routine. I found an energy healer of all things. I was never woo-woo. And I spent, I think it was about 4 weeks with this energy healer. And after that, I found self-love. And I did a whole lot of self-love work. And that was it. Like those 3 days where I didn't talk to my husband was the moment where I decided this is not how I want to live my life. This is not about me. This is about how I can show up in the world for others. And that was it. And the rest is kind of history now.
Wow. So when you did that, was it something like you started you created your company from there, or you decided like, okay, how am I going to show up? Like how did the company develop?
Yeah, so my background, like I said, is strength and conditioning and nutrition. And so I simply started sharing my self-love journey and my journey to prioritizing that process of finding myself again. And I just showed up and I shared it. I knew other mums who were struggling with postnatal depression. And I knew that if I could just show up and share, that would be of service. It would help them. And so I did. And then it wasn't until the November of that year, and I started sharing in about maybe June, that I opened a Facebook group. And I think I had like 40 women in the Facebook group. And that was where it all began. And it's amazing. Like some of the women who were in that Facebook community, actually, I would say the majority of them, they're still in my Facebook community today. Even though I don't work in that kind of realm anymore. But they are still there. And that feels really, really cool.
So what obstacles did you face? Like once you made the switch and you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, what obstacles, if any, did you face and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest obstacles for me were really my own mind drama, like that horrible voice that we all have in our head that wants to talk you out of doing the thing. Every time you go to do the thing and it decides to have a conversation up in there and it's like, hang on a minute, you know, like, why do you want to do this? You know, you're going to the gym, for example, and she's up in there and she's like, you don't want to go to the gym. It's raining, you know, have a cookie instead, sit on the couch, yada, yada. And you're just like, shush, because I know the gym is going to make me feel good. You know, you want to hit live on your very first Facebook Live. I remember the butterflies in my stomach, the shaking hands, the sweat dripping. Like, I remember that. And that little voice up there was like, why, you know, what's your mom going to think? What's everyone else going to think? Like, so the biggest obstacle was myself, and it still is. Every single day, it is still myself. And that side of me that would prefer not to do the thing.
So what did your mom think?
Well, my parents are actually blocked off my Facebook and my Instagram. So there you go. Yeah. And it's really interesting because they didn't understand. They were like, who is this woman? Like, I literally had a conversation with my mum and she said, I don't know who you are anymore. And I was like, yeah, but look at who I've become. Yes, I'm not that person anymore, but look at me now. And it was actually creating rifts within my family. And so I decided to put a boundary in place and separate like who I am and how I show up in the world from my parents until they are ready. And it's been, I mean, it was September that year where I decided to put that boundary in, and that was when Harry was born. So that was in 2017. But here's the really cool thing that I want to share with you guys is that it has actually made the relationship with my family stronger because they get to know me and who I am and how like we parent our children and all of that from a perspective that they get to know it, not from watching my Facebook lives or watching different things. They are getting to know me in the FaceTime conversations that we have, or when they fly overseas, they're like, oh, like this is how you do things. And, you know, it's actually created a better relationship because they don't understand the online world. And that created negativity. It created pushback. And so it was simply better to create space there and invite them into this new world in a different way.
Wow, that's great. I was worried for a second, and then, and now that you said that, I think that's amazing. Yeah, that's funny because I worry sometimes. My mother's not a online person, but she sometimes will see some posts. But my dad also, I didn't know, like when I would post certain like interviews or videos I've done or Facebook Lives, I didn't know that he was watching. And I would only know because like I remember the last one I did, my mom was like, oh, you looked really good on that thing you did. Not the thing on Facebook. I was like, you watch? She was like, yeah, your dad showed it to me. I was like, oh. I was like, I didn't even know. But yeah, so I worried about that because my family is very much like, keep your business to yourself. So that's why it was very hard for me to even bring up, like to show up on the sense of I fought and I was an advocate for depression, but I didn't want people to know that it was because I was going through it, and I definitely didn't want them to think like, oh, she's weak or whatever, the stipulations that come with, admitting to being depressed. And to openly say that, and the things that I went through, they're like, you can't, you're telling people your business, blah, blah, blah. So it was, I mean, I get it, like, as far as like them not understanding. And I remember I made mention just one thing about me going over to Europe, and because of the reason I went there, they were like, oh, don't tell people that. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. It's a part of my life. It's a part of my story. I mean, I'm good. It's okay. But like you're right about not understanding. But I don't know if I can get away with blocking them. I think they would be a little.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I had that conversation, and mum still will bring it up now. She's like, well, I'm blocked off all of your, Facebook, or what's that thing called? Instagram. And, she still brings it up. But the thing that really, I have this conversation with my clients all the time, and it's really, if you were going to work, would you take your parents with you, or would you take Aunt Cheryl with you into your accounting job to sit with you? You wouldn't, right?
Right.
And it's interesting how we have these like new standards for what we allow, what we don't allow on our social media. And it really depends on what you're using it for. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's a really important thing to consider, especially for someone, for example, who is considering to chase your dreams. It involves, stepping into the online space to be able to network and meet people and share your dream. Are you being held back by those people that you're fearing judgment from, or ridicule or questions from. And, you know, consider just giving yourself a little bit of space to be able to explore this new version of you. And when you feel ready, bring them in, you know. And there is no, I really feel like there's no guilt around that, because there are many other ways to stay connected. You've got WhatsApp, you've got, you know, I don't know, like whatever else you got, but you've got all these other ways, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into this and then not doing something because there's, you know, Aunt Cheryl over there and, you know, she's going to say something at the next barbecue. Like, don't worry about it.
Right. No, I mean, I didn't even look at it that way. That makes complete sense. So, okay. So who would you say throughout this journey has been your biggest supporter?
My husband.
So I'm assuming he loved the change, you know, from that one day that, you know, he was like, listen, you need to get it together. Was he like ecstatic, like once you decided, you know, and changed over and
Shall I call him in here?
The new Shannon? Hey, call him in here. We can give his opinion.
I should. Yeah, I would say yes. Like, you know, I really feel like we wouldn't be here if I hadn't had that moment of, I can't keep doing this to myself, number one, but I can't keep doing this to those little people or to him. It wasn't fair on them, and it wasn't fair on me, and it wasn't fair for the family that I really wanted. I was coming between the family that I really wanted. And that was my fault. And I had to accept that. And that was probably the hardest thing that I ever did. And so, you know, he tells me he's proud of me like every other day, probably more than my parents, right? And so, yeah, he's definitely my biggest supporter.
That's awesome. Thanks, husband. What's his name?
Nick.
Thanks, Nick. So, how do you feel like you are adding value to the community?
Oh, God, with my energy? I feel like if I'm really honest, I feel like I'm a permission slip. I feel like the work that I do and how I show up and how I share, it's one of the biggest things that the women in my community, that's the feedback I get. Like, Shan, you gave me this permission slip for me to truly be who I am, for me to show up for what I really want, to be confident in chasing, you know, my dreams. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I do is I share from my heart, I show up, and honestly, like most of the time, I don't know, you know, how. I don't know how. I just do it. I just show up, and with a whole lot of love on my heart, in the hope that it will inspire somebody to get out of the place, honestly, that I was in. I want to be that permission slip for those women, that it doesn't matter if you don't have you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have it scripted. You don't have to have it scripted together. You don't have to know how. All you need is to have that connection with yourself, to see yourself, and then to show up, because the moment you do, you'll be that light for others.
Yeah. So tell me, like, what advice would you give to someone who is kind of sitting on the fence of the field of their dreams? They know what, they have an idea of what they want to do, but they just can't make that decision to go either way. What advice would you give someone like that?
Come here, I'll push you off the ledge. That's
kind of scary.
But honestly, right? Like, honestly, the advice that I would give you if you're teetering right now is to sit down with yourself and get clear on what you want. What is the cost of what you are like giving up to stay where you are right now? And what's the benefit of you moving in that direction of chasing your dreams? The next thing that I really want to encourage you to do is to not get all up in your head. What's the very next tiny little step that you need to take? And focus on that. Because the biggest thing that we do as women is we think 10 steps ahead, and we're like, holy, can I swear on this podcast?
You've already done it. It's too late.
Okay, well, I'm not going to now.
No, you can. It's fine.
Like, holy crap. Like, I can't do that. That's too much for me. And here's the thing. You're right.
Yeah.
The thing that you're thinking about that's 10 steps ahead right now for you, it is too much for you. But that is only because you haven't completed step 1. As soon as you complete step 1 and then you move on to step 2 without the mind drama, now you're going to get it, but as long as you process it, you're going to be fine. By the time you get to step 10, you'll be ready for it.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing that I think we need to really embrace when we're about to step in and take that leap and that chance on living in our dreams.
Wow. I love it. All right. Well, it's time for the lightning round. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and then you just answer it. What comes to mind. Yeah. Here we go. Ready? Dun, 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 dun. What initially held you back, if anything did, from making your commitment to change?
Being seen as wrong.
Okay. What is the best advice you have ever received?
Shape up or ship out.
That was your catalytic, is that even a word? Catalytic change.
Yeah.
Share a personal habit that contributes to your success.
My training in the gym, my commitment to my physical self and prioritizing that, not from obsession, but from love, and knowing that if my physical vessel isn't feeling good, then my mind also isn't feeling good.
Yeah, makes a difference. Okay, share a book or your favorite book, or what book would you recommend to the C2C audience and why?
I was going to try to find it. I recommend every single person read The Surrender Experiment. I'm currently reading it again. It is the most amazing book. I read it when we very first went into lockdown. So as you said at the start of the podcast, I think that's where we met originally, was we were in the Lombardy region in Italy when the COVID hit. And we were like one of the very first areas to go into like extreme lockdown. And I was sharing live videos every day. And I read The Surrender Experiment. And obviously by the title, it's all about surrendering to life's events and what's happening. And I contribute getting through that intense period of being locked in our house for 3 months. Honestly, to reading that book initially and choosing to show up with what COVID gave us. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so your final deep-ended question is, if you found out that you had 1 hour left to live and you were given the opportunity to share one final message, what would it be?
Holy crap.
Is that the message?
No, I didn't read that before we got on. Oh, this can't be a lightning round. This takes thought. I know I only have an hour. I'm wasting it. God. So, like, have the conversation. Have the conversation that you need to have. Say the thing that you really have been wanting to say. Tell that person that you love them. Tell that person that you're sorry. One of the things that I did when I found self-love was I got back in touch with people women that I had rejected, or I sent them a message and I said, I am sending you so much love. Like, thank you so much for what you taught me. I'm sorry for how I behaved. I'm sorry we drifted off in different directions. And those women are actually friends now. Like, they follow my journey. They keep in touch. And it was because I was vulnerable enough. I was courageous enough to say, you know what, I'm sorry. And it enabled that open loop to close the loops, because you're going to feel so much more free. And I know that so many people walk around with open loops. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that was good. See? That was good. I love that. Okay. Well, Miss Shannon Rose, Shannon Rose.
You guys, if you could only see what Miss Nikki is doing with her hands.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so those who watch are going to see.
Were people watching this?
No, not live. Later.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
I did.
I would have put like better lighting on or something.
Don't worry, you look fabulous.
Lucky I didn't, do anything weird.
You look fabulous. Don't worry.
I would have put my big earrings in to match you, and I would have got a way more sexy drink bottle. Come on.
Oh, they're sexy in the plane, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm trying to make it work. First of all, I totally wish that I would have seen some of what you were doing while I was in Europe, because I would have loved to have met you. I just left Europe in November. I lived in Germany.
Yeah.
So that would. I was closer to the Czech border, so I was about like 2 hours from Prague, but like 45 minutes from Czech. So I was on that end. So I can't remember if that's closer to Sweden or not, because I know we went through Sweden to go to Italy, because we went there for vacation.
No, Sweden's north.
Okay.
Sweden's more north, but you would have gone through Switzerland to go to
Italy.
Italy.
Switzerland, that's on the other S.
Don't worry, I failed geography too. Every time Nick's like, we're going to go somewhere, he gives me the map. He's like, is this a good idea? I'm like, I don't know. We could end up in Alaska. I don't know.
Or as I said earlier, we went through Australia. But you know what? I knew Australia was in there. So I was kind of somewhat, no, I wasn't. Let me stop. It was nowhere near. Well, anyway, what's really great is I will be back if they open the borders. I will be back in March.
Yeah.
So maybe if our schedules unite or allow, maybe we can meet up in person. I would absolutely love that. But for those who are not traveling to Europe, please tell them where they can find you and find out more about what you are doing.
Come and find me on Facebook. My Facebook community is called the She Collective. My personal page, and you can find me over on Instagram too. I've just started up a brand new Instagram with my husband. It's called Real World Couple. That's our handle.
I love it. I love it. Before you go, I just want to ask you, just so people can get an idea, tell us about your Facebook community. What can they find within the community?
So I help women find the confidence and the clarity to not only step into who they really are, so that's that permission slip I was talking about, but also to have their first 5K month online in their online business.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's not
But also, if you are someone and you want to share your message, every Thursday we have a initiative that I created called She Serves Thursday, and that's really to give women the space who are in there, a space to come live, to share their message, to share their mission, to practice as well. Like if it's a new thing for you and you're stepping into, showing up, And then it's a great time. You can come live and share your link so people can come find you. And I'd love to invite you if that's something that you want to do. Then come share with us.
Yes, please come share in the collective. I'm supposed to be doing that, but I'll be there. I'll be there soon. Yay! So it really has been a pleasure for you coming on the CDC podcast. I thank you so much. And again, you'd have to do it one more time, Miss Shannon Rose. I just love it. I absolutely love it. Some people get blessed with like really cool names. And my name is so boring. So that's why it's like, okay, well, we're just going to call me Miss Nikki.
What's your last name?
So my name is actually Nicole Johnson. I do have a hashtag / focal, but yeah.
Show me those guns again.
Oh, they're little today. They're little. I need to rework it. I'm starting over. You'll see soon. You'll see soon because I'm working to compete.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That was something that's always been on my bucket list. And when I originally did the Miss Nikki fitness movement, that's where I was. And then I started going back to school for nutrition. And so with going to school, I wasn't able to be as active. And so then I started to falter. And then I met my husband, and I moved to Germany, and then I got invited to the European wines and all the foods. And yeah, all that shifted. So now I'm starting over.
I love it.
Yeah,
I can't wait to watch your journey.
No, thank you. And yet you're motivational for me. So I love it too. All right, then we could be here all day, but I know you have people's lives to change, and then I have more interviews. Yay! So that is a wrap. Thank you again so much for being a VIP guest on the Commit to Change podcast. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We hope you feel inspired and keep moving forward towards your goals and stick with or make a commitment to change your life. And please make sure to check out all of the links provided by our guests and share today's podcast and information with anyone you think who could benefit from it. And remember, in order to get to the top of the steps, you have to take the first step. But just don't step on anyone on the way, because you just might trip. This is Miss Nikki. Till next time. Bye. You're on mute, so you can't say bye.
Bye.
Welcome to the Commit to Change your life.